one of my old students. He works in the video department now. So he's in charge of going around the college and making videos of all the different departments and doing a lot of promotional stuff. So if you see a video typically on YouTube from about Macomb, he's in the group that does that. So he sent me this video that he created, and he said that he wanted to change a clip in the video. So right here, rewind that and play it again. This is Nuke. So this is basically just like After Effects, except it can do a lot more stuff, and it has like an actual 3D. The only thing it doesn't really do very good is like motion graphics. The main thing that we use After Effects for. So what the reason for this is, he says, I have this video clip, and it looks like the guy's building a bomb on here. He's actually just building a tower, but several people mentioned to him that it looks like he's building a bomb. They wanted to like replace that image so it looked more friendly. So going through several of these steps here, he wasn't totally sure how to do it, so I made a little video showing him how to do it. And so you can see like the end product of this shows that video being replaced. In this case, it's with a checkerboard, but I can replace it with literally any picture. I can put a picture of a cat there, and it would look like the cat's on the screen. The biggest thing here is that obviously the screen is cut out from the guy, so that it's a separate element. And then also that the motion is matching also. Ignore this. The video has gone too far. I'm not sure why it's playing that far. Oh, no, it should be good. I don't know why it played past the end of that. 516. There we go. Or 507. There we go. Okay. So you can see that the screen is actually moving with him. You can see that it's cut out. There's even a little glow there. And just to show you, I can put any picture there. I'll just take his picture. Oops. And Matrix style, he'll be watching a picture of himself. Still has the bomb in it. Okay. So I just want to show that this kind of thing here you can do inside of After Effects too. It's just a different workflow. One of our last projects we're going to work on is going to be doing something called tracking, where we'll be taking a piece of footage and tracking stuff and adding animations on top of it. But that will be down the line. All right. Okay. So here's what your end output of your Unfold could look like. I have the extra artwork I'll show you. Make sure my audio is up. Now, you don't have that audio. So those are extra things. So I'm giving you the graphic here, so you'll have like the pirate ship map thing that you can use on yours. If you want to create your own, as long as it looks clean and nice, that's perfect. You can still use that. It's on the 3DUnfold. It's the pirate map. So in After Effects, this is what the end product looks like. There it is. Right there. Okay. So the way that I get the map to have that image in there is I imported it, obviously. So I went to my artwork where I stored that pirate map. I told it that I wanted to do composition, retain layer size. That way it brings in all the layers at the correct size, not the entire composition size. I hit import, and then that gives me a pirate map composition. Okay, so here's all the layers from that pirate map composition. Now what I do is I copy and paste these into my there it is, into my map image. So this was the image you guys were using as your gradient. So you had that gradient on there with the checkerboard. So I eliminated the checkerboard, eliminated the gradient, and now I'm just using this map. And if you look way down here at the bottom, I still have on that image. That was something else I played with. So I still have that image inside here. I just turned them off. And so now I just have the map pieces. And if I hide some of this other stuff that I have, I don't need that. I don't need that right now. I don't need the octopus. I don't need the octopus legs. Okay. So this will get you the entire map just inside your piece. Now, in order to take this map and animate it, I'm just going to open up the original map part so we can see this. If I go to the path here, you already know how to animate something inside of After Effects that would look like that. If we were to just draw out that line with our pen tool, we could just use a trim path to do that, right? Like we've done that before. But with this, we already have the path here, and I don't want to have to redraw that. It's super simple to do, but I don't want to have to do it, okay? So every element that I plan on animating, I've brought in on a separate layer. So the water, I may not animate the water, it may stay the same, but let's say I want to add some sort of effect on top of the water, like maybe I want to add some ripples to it, I put it on a separate layer inside of Illustrator. My waves are just these pieces of white, same kind of thing. Those are on a separate layer also. The boat's on a separate layer too. Oops. Okay, so if I did want to animate the boat kind of going along the path, the islands typically wouldn't move, but I may have stuff around them. There's the path, here's the map icon, and then here's the letter X, which is right there. Okay, so the only two things I animated on mine were the path and the letter X. So the path, if I open up my buttons here, you'll see that there's nothing fancy. Like I want to get to that trim path thing. Well, this is one of the cool things about working between Illustrator and After Effects is you can right-click on an Illustrator layer and you can create shapes from it. Okay, and that means basically rebuild this shape inside of After Effects so that I can get to all those fancy tools. So I click that, and now it's created a stroke. It's created 3 groups, boom, boom, boom. And then it has number 2 is the main path. Now, for whatever reason, it makes number 1 a group, and it makes number 3 its own group. So we really don't need those, so I just delete them. Okay. And then I go to number 2, and then I do that trim path. So I say add trim path. And then I do my start and end. I'm turn this group back on so I can see it. Okay, so I would just animate this going from, let's say, 2 seconds here to 4 seconds there. Now I need this to go full screen, so I'm going to turn my preview to not go full screen. There we go. I can also turn my grid off so we don't see that. Okay, now to get the X to come on, just as an easy way, how would you get the X to come on here? You can have it shoot in, blow up. What were you going to say? Yep, trimming the layer is what I did. You could use transparency if I wanted to kind of fade in or if I wanted to animate it quickly. But with the layer here, all I did was find out where that thing is about to hit, and I just trimmed it, right? Or Alt left bracket. That way it kind of comes in, bing, like that, okay? Now let's pretend that I wanted to animate the waves also. If I go to the waves here, under my effects and under distort, there's a whole bunch of different distortion tools inside here that you could use. One of them is turbulent displace. I think that one will do it. Yeah, so I could animate this not the complexity. I could animate the evolution. I could lower the size so it's not so much. It's like going crazy. There we go. Animate the evolution factor, and now each of these waves would actually look like they're kind of being wavy. So I could definitely animate that too. For what I was doing, I just thought it was maybe a little bit too much stuff going on, so I didn't end up doing that. I could also animate the boat. There are ways that I could animate the boat along a path. I'm not going to get into that now, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to. The little octopus guy that I had inside mine, where is he at? Here. This and that. Okay. So there's a little octopus guy, and I just timed him so that when this little thing came across, like that's where the path is going, that he would just pop up. And he is done just with 2 track mattes. Okay, so the same things we would use to have the text like pop up or move down or whatever to hide it. That's the same exact thing I did. I just drew a shape, and I did one for the head, and I did one for the legs, and I just animated the head and the legs just kind of coming out and moving around a little bit. Okay. Now the cool thing about having these things kind of shrunk down to the size that I need them to is I can really move them wherever I need to. Not those specifically, but the legs and stuff. What else did I do? I have this grunge map on here. So to give this some texture, I found an image online of just it's a grunge map. It's basically just like a dirty picture. And I just put it on top of everything, and I just changed the mode to linear burn. I went through the list, which one looks the best, and that one turned out to be the best for this specific project. I've used multiply before, but multiply seemed like it washed it out a little bit. So linear burn gave me the best look of what I was after. Now the other thing that I did on this is on my, I added this grid. Okay, and this is, I literally went through and drew out like my entire grid line. You don't have to do this part, I'm just showing it, so in case you wanted to do something like that, you could. I drew out each grid line, and here's what it looks like. I pre-composed it so it was one solid object. And then I used it as a track mat for that same grunge map. And so what it does is it creates this kind of look. Okay, so basically I'm using another, set this to normal, set this to no track mat, set my opacity all the way up. Okay, so there's the picture of the grunge map that I used. So I set this to be a track mat with my alpha, or with my grid. So now you can see that that grid is right here, but it was too like obvious of where it was at. So then I went and took the opacity down some on it. And that just kind of helped blend it in a little bit. So it kind of looked like the folds, like when you unfold a map, you'd still see like those fold lines there. Now on the grid, if you look at how crisp these lines are here, and if you look at how soft and rounded these lines are here, I did do something extra to the grid. So on the grid itself, I added what's called a simple choker. And what it does is it takes whatever alpha you have, whatever mask you have, and it'll either squeeze it in or it'll push it outward. Okay, so if I get rid of that simple choker, you'll see how square they are. By putting it on there, it kind of brings them in and makes it feel a little bit more like folds. Now this isn't something that you may know right away. Like you may not know like how to create folds. So I played around with this for like 10 minutes trying to decide like how is this going to work, and that just happened to work out. I also did a set map. This is just to give it a little bit more detail, but that looked pretty good. Okay, so what happens is once I put this inside of that map comp, when I come back to here and I look at my unfold, everything is unfolding and there's my map. Okay, so now it's just a matter of timing things. Let me turn my motion blur off so it goes a little quicker. It's a matter of timing things so that my map opens first, like this, and then all of my stuff happens. So if I know that this is about 3 seconds, I go back to my map, and I make sure that all of my animations that are inside here are pushed over so they start at about 3 seconds. So obviously that's something that has to happen too. You'll also notice this. Look at the layers down here and see how there's a darker part and then there's this lighter part. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here real quick. And I'm just going to erase this lighter part on a few of these. So let's see which ones I selected. Hopefully these are ones that are actually going to show something. There we go. All right, let's go to, I guess, that one maybe. Got to do a couple more. There they are. I'll move these guys here. This one here. Okay, so now I'm going to play this and go through. And if we watch, let me set this to third or half. There we go. Stop doing that. There we go. So look at this now. Look at how the lines don't match up right. Okay, see how the line is like a big gap right here this one's starting, and then like that one's starting. What happens is as we offset each one of these layers, it also offset the time for each one of those layers. Okay, so imagine we had a video. Every time we move that layer over, we're offsetting the video for each one. Well, what I want to do is not do that. What I want to do is basically like move the layer over, but keep the video exactly where it is. So all the videos start at the same time. So what I have to do is I go to my anchor point, my pan behind tool. I zoom in here and I just make sure that each one of these is lined up perfectly with the one before it. Okay, so wherever my first layer is, that's where all of these are going to be. So I just set my little blue marker there and I move each one of these over. Now, if it doesn't work, you may have to crop the end of it. Like on mine, because it was already fitting to the entire time of my timeline, I actually had to go through and just stretch it out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now all these are lined up. So if I zoom back out of here, let's say that this wasn't allowing me to do this, I would just go to the end of all of these and I would just pull these in more. And by pulling these in more, it's going to allow me to pull more on that side. Okay, so that has to be done. Otherwise, what happens is all your tiles flip, and then each tile is basically a different movie playing at a different time. So then you're going to get this weird thing where the animation's not going to line up perfectly. Okay. Now I did do something extra also on this. You don't have to do this step, but I added that same simple choker. I added to each one of these layers. And the reason I did that, let me go to this middle one because I think it was kind of obvious when I did it there. Good. I'll set this back to full. Okay, so on some of these, because of where the masks line up, you may get this line. Okay, let me turn my grid off too because that'll make it even more apparent. Okay, you may get these lines, like right here you don't see any lines happening. It just looks like one fluid map. But then over here you can see how there's like cracks around my map. Each square I can see that line right there. So what I want to do is take that map, that mask that we have, and just extend it out just a little bit. So what I did was I put a simple choker of -2 on those. And the way I did that was I basically just went to one of these. I went to Effect, I went to Matte, I went to Simple Choker, and I typed in -2. Nope. And then I copied this, grabbed all of them, and then Control V to paste it, and I pasted it on all of those. Okay, so each one of those would get that same effect. I'll need this tab twice. Okay, and then of course I added that grid because that grid just adds another little touch to it that makes it feel a little bit more complete. Okay, and then the last thing I did was I added some sound effects. And so just so you can see how to, how to build some sound effects for this, I used, what I used? 3 of them here. So I have the clicking sound, I have the cha-ching sound, and then I have the little bloopy sound for this guy coming up. And then on my regular comp, I have the crumpling of this paper unfolding. Okay, so those were the major sound effects that I used for this. So I went to here, and I typed in free sound effects. And if you're looking for something specific, you can find a very specific thing like bloops or blood splatter. And then some of these are free, some of these you have to pay for. This website here, which is freesound.org, usually is one that it always brings me back to. I have an account there so I can download stuff, but you just search for whatever you want. So if you want water, sounds, you can get that. I think that might have been a good one too for that guy. No, not that one. All right. So you go through and you find one that you like. Cha-ching sound. That's not it. There you go. That could have worked, kind of also. And if you can't find any sound effects, like some of them, it's very difficult to find. You may have to modify one of these, or you may have to just make your own. If you have a microphone on your phone, very easily you could grab something like paper crumpling. I was having a hard time finding that. So I was like, maybe I could just, if I don't find it in the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to record myself crumbling a piece of paper how I want. I'll use that. So you download these things and you bring it into Audition. And so for my audio here, let's go to 200, audio folder. I'll just bring all of these in so you can see them. All right. So here is Sound Bible was another one you can find stuff at. All right. So there's that one. Okay. Um, so if I don't like the way that sounds, like maybe I think it's maybe too loud, I could crank it down. So I just double click the whole thing and then I could change the volume so now it's lower. You can change the volume in After Effects too, so you don't want to go too low with it, but you can definitely lower it down. You could add things like echoes, amplitude compression, delay and echo. And then you just hit play, right? And then you can play with the different effects. Getting away from just regular stuff. I don't like this one with echo anyway. You could also change the pitch. All the ones that I did, I ended up just changing the pitch down because a lot of them were really high and I wanted it to sound more um, softer. So I went to time and pitch, I went to pitch shifter, and then in here you can hit the play button. And then just by playing with these two controllers, you can take the pitch from being kind of like high pitch to being low pitch and kind of slower. Actually, like that's good. I'm not, that's good. Okay. So there's my bloop. And so I would basically just save this file out as a WAV file and then I could use that. Um, Here is my clicking for the map. Okay, so it basically just plays one click. So I could have gone into After Effects and copied and pasted it a million times, and that would have totally worked. But I didn't want to do that. And you definitely don't want to do that kind of stuff. You want to do it the smart way. So I went and made a new multi-track and call it whatever. Bless you. And then what I did is I took my click and I drug it into this area. And then I zoomed in. This is like a long time. So here's my click. Okay. So I took it and then I could just hold down Alt and drag a copy. And then I drag another copy. Okay. So I'm basically dragging copies in here and then I can grab all three of these and drag copies. Okay. Now I still wanted to have more clicking happen. So I grabbed all of these and then I Alt drag them down to this one and then I offset it. Whoops. Right? So now I'm getting that same kind of sound effect. I'm going to go back to this click here. This is why you want to do it in this thing, because I can take this and go to that pitch. Pitch shifter. All right, let's say that. Okay, so by changing it here and then I save it, when I go back to that whatever, now all these have changed, right? So I may not use it at that volume. I may still crank it down, but that gives me the timing. Now, when I was in After Effects, I knew how long it took from the time it started till the time it ended, which was about 3 seconds. So then I just modified it. So I just went, these are all seconds up here. That should be obvious. Hold the right key, and I just copied this again. Now, you may not be comfortable using software like this. Well, oh well, just get comfortable using it if you want to add some cool sound effects. Because these kinds of things can really help make your animation just kind of pop a little bit more and be a little bit more exciting. Cool. So then I take this and then I export this out. And I say multi-track mixdown, which is basically just take everything that's inside this multi-track and put it into one single file that I could use called the whatever mixdown. Put it in the right folder, save it as a wave. Good enough. Good. And then here's my whatever mixdown. I brought it back in. And then I could tweak it from here. If I need to lower the volume, I could lower the volume. If I need to fade it out, see this little square up here? You just click and drag and that fades. And if you drag it up, it'll kind of make a sharper fade. If you drag it down, it'll make a slower fade. Okay, so you can play with these too if you wanted something to kind of fade in and out. Not necessarily what we need for ours, but you could use that. Okay. What else? The cha-ching, I think I used regular. The paper crumbling actually was a higher pitch. It was like maybe like that. So it felt more like crispy paper than a map. So I wanted to take it down so it's a little bit softer. So I just took it down. Okay. And then when you import it in After Effects, you import it the same way you would import anything. Not that way. Holy cow. Back to Workspace, back to Reset. Good. You double click, you find your audio, which should be in your audio folder if you're in the right project. Audio, you grab your stuff. This was a Mario one that I thought might work. Like that's the one I thought maybe I'll use that one for the octopus, but I didn't. Or maybe I did. Map. No, I did not. Okay. So if I want to use this, I just drag this down. It's already sized to the exact length of it. So wherever I need this to be, let's pretend I'm using this for my octopus. I put it right about there. I'll turn off that audio and just kind of move this one. And then I can hit L for levels, and then I can pull the volume down if it's too loud. Yeah, that one works too, right? Maybe both of them together. Yeah. Okay. Turn it down. This volume up here is obviously a lot louder than what I was working with on my laptop earlier. Yeah, cool. Okay, so all of my audio, whenever I do it, I try to keep the audio kind of together so that it makes sense. So all my audio is kind of right here because that's where my audio is. And typically this would be on the bottom there. There we go. Now all the audio is right on top. Okay, so that way it's easy to find where my audio is. Now the audio for all the stuff that pertains to this animation is inside this composition. That way I can easily line it up and easily time it. Inside of my unfold comp, which is where I did all the actual unfolding, the only piece of audio is the paper crumbling because that audio pertains to this comp. Okay, because that's where the paper unfolds. Everything else is kind of embedded inside of this map. Okay, and then the other thing I had to do was on each one of these maps that came in, they each have the audio. You can't see it because it's cut off here, but they each have an audio piece right there that brought in two. So every one of those comps had audio on it, meaning that when I played it, it was extra loud because all of them were playing. No matter how much I turned the volume down, it never went down. So just to show you, if I went like that, this is gonna be really loud. Because that's all the audio kind of amplified. And that actually took me like 5 minutes to figure out, like, why isn't this working? Much better. Okay. What else did I do? I did add a background to this, so instead of having it just on nothing, which kind of looked boring, like that, I just added this piece of wood. I found a picture of wood online, dropped it in behind it, and then just found the right position. So it has to be a 3D layer so that it accepts the shadows and everything, or accepts the lighting. And if this is too close, like right there, you'll see that my paper is actually like bleeding through the wood. Okay, so I had to push it back in the Z direction so that my paper didn't go into the wood. And then I think material options. Yeah, I did not tell any of these to cast shadows, which I should have done too. So I'm just going to grab all of these, all the way down to this, and say cast shadows on. That way I'll get a nice shadow on there too, which will again kind of look like it's setting it more inside of, make it a little bit more realistic looking. Anything else? Let me see if there's anything else that I did to this specific one. Nope, I have my light on here, which we talked about before. My camera, I just animated from one side to the other, just set keyframes on the position and orientation. That's all I did there. Once I was finished with it, I dropped it into my, brought my title sequence in, changed the name, so assignment 4, 3D Unfold. I did have to offset it slightly, okay, just so that my animation didn't start right away because I had to add a little fade in here, right? So if you go to my actual 3D comp, you'll see these first like almost second is nothing. I moved everything down a frame or down to the first second so that when I put these two together, I would have some room to kind of fade between them. So it wouldn't just like abruptly jump to the next one. And then I made my movie just like normal. Okay. And then keep your stuff organized over here. I don't need, this should be inside of my comps. This should be inside of comps. This should be inside of artwork. There we go. Cool. Okay, and then that will wrap up this assignment, is just getting that one done. Okay, so you're not going to turn in, or you don't need to turn in the sign folding down thing. That's a practice one. You definitely want to make sure you do it because it gets you ready for doing something obviously bigger like this. Okay, this is what you're going to be turning in, is this project folder, the whole project folder, and then inside that should be your movie labeled accordingly. And then if there's any extra stuff in here that you didn't use, like I don't think I used either of these, I can delete those things. So it always helps to go through your stuff too. If you have any audio that you didn't use, you can definitely delete that too. The octopus, I'm not going to give you. If you want an octopus, you can draw your own octopus. There's my pirate map. There's my grunge map. There's my wood. I don't need any of these autosaves. That's garbage. Okay. So then I would just drop this folder right here onto that Z drive turn-in folder. This will be